Brothers.
All right, welcome back, everybody, to our Monday edition of Sports Talk Live. What a busy day it's going to be for us out here at Border City Ale House, 1506 Lee Trevino on the east side of town. Adrian's going to be going west to the district in 2 hours at 3233 North Mesa for the Minor Talk pregame show before we get ready for UTEP and UC Santa Barbara here tonight. 7 o'clock tip-off on 600 ESPN El Paso with John Teicher, Steve Yellen calling the action. We're going to be live out here getting you ready for the Denver Broncos and the Buffalo Bills. It's Monday Night Football out here at the Ale House. We will also have the UTEP USCSB game on the televisions here as well. So excited about that. It's pint night with us. $3.50, $4.50, $5.50 pints. We've got $3 cans of Modelo, $4 Fireball, and, of course, the menu, which has everything you want, whether it's pizza, brisket, fajita, tacos. We also have delicious half-pound burgers, chicken sandwiches, unbelievable appetizers. It doesn't matter what you're looking for. If you have an appetite, come down here and Border City Ale House will feed you and keep you well hydrated for Monday Night Football and for UTEP and UCSB. Now, a lot to catch up on over the weekend. Adrian, I know you are going to be super busy with not just our show, but then heading out to the district in a couple of hours to host the Minor Talk Tailgate Show, which I'm excited about, and we'll definitely have more information on throughout the course of the show today. But the game that everybody's talking about right now is UTEP and UCSB. After two thrashings where the Miners have scored a combined 243 points, they'll be tested in a much bigger way here tonight with a team that was the tournament team last year and a group that, despite losing at home to Portland State last week, poses a pretty good test to this UTEP Minor Basketball Club.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Steve. I mean, you talk about somebody like A.J. Mitchell. That is their star guard that UCSB is bringing in tonight to the Don Haskins Center. But whether or not he will play, that's the biggest question. That's the biggest storyline going into this matchup tonight because he was picked as the all-preseason Big West team. He was the former Big West Player of the Year as well. And if he does not go tonight, remember, he didn't go last week on Thursday against Portland State. If he doesn't go tonight, well, that's a big loss for the Gauchos in UC Santa Barbara. But if he does go, A.J. Mitchell, then they'll go as far as he can take them. They've got transfers galore, guys who they can throw into the mix and who can be immediate impact players right away for this team tonight. But I feel like their success rests on the Big West Player of the Year, at least from 2022, and that is A.J. Mitchell, who is on their club as well.
Well, I guess we won't know until we see, them tonight and how that's going to go. Because, yeah, A.J. was out for Santa Barbara in their game against Portland State. And, you think about that. And without A.J. Mitchell, the Vikings forced a ton of turnovers on the Gauchos offense. So that was the story. And, yeah, I'm interested to see if A.J. is going to play because that is a huge, huge storyline for UCSB tonight. Huge storyline. And do we know for sure? Because, they're calling it like an undisclosed injury and how he was a late scratch. Do we know what's going to happen yet?
No, we don't.
They're calling it a minor injury.
Correct. Yeah, they said that he was supposed to play against Portland State, which is so weird, right? I mean, UC Santa Barbara was heavy favorites in that matchup against Portland State, and I'm not taking anything away from Portland State, but I would also say going into this one, he is that difference maker. He is the guy who can help them either win this one or keep it close on the UCSB side of things. He did not play, and that was pretty much a game-time decision, but yes, it was undisclosed. They're very quiet over there at UC Santa Barbara with head coach Joe Pasternak. They are very quiet as far as how much information they're releasing on this one right there. There has been no indication whatsoever, even by their media, as far as whether or not A.J. Mitchell will play.
Do we know if he made the trip?
That's a great question too. I mean, I don't know. I will say this: if he was supposed to be a go against Portland State, I think at least he makes the trip and tries to give it a go tonight.
I would think so too. So that's a big storyline. We'll keep an eye on that. Excited to find out. And by the way, you almost want to see if UTEP can beat UCSB with A.J. Mitchell, don't you? That's a good storyline.
Yes, I want this team to be at full strength when UTEP plays them so we can have a better understanding of what this UTEP team will bring the fans this season. I want to see what this team will do against a competition that's pretty much on their level. And I would think that on paper right now, UC Santa Barbara is on the same level as UTEP, at least right now on paper when you're just taking these teams and looking at them from afar.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. Well, let me say this, and I'm interested to see what ends up happening. In fact, thank you, Chad, for informing me that Jim Rome is a huge UCSB graduate. I didn't realize Romy was from there. Did you?
No, I didn't. I've been to the Santa Barbara area. My wife's family lives out there in Santa Barbara, so it's super cool to go out there. It's like one of the most beautiful places here in the West Coast that you can ever visit. It's like mountainous and then also the beach, so I love it.
Yeah, me too. Me too. So that is a good way to get us started here on the program today. Really good way. And I'm excited to see what ends up happening with, their situation against UTEP. But like I just said, I want to see UTEP play with their best. That's what I want to see. I don't want to see UTEP, win without, a guy like AJ. That's the ultimate. So, yeah, I'm with you on that one. And willing to see what happens. I think it's going to be a very good storyline for us to keep an eye on here tonight. Very good. So, anyway, you want to talk about it with us? We'd love to hear about it with you. 505-6009, our telephone number. And by the way, Adrian, they're pacing well for crowds. Very well. In fact, I feel almost like we're pretty safe to say it's going to be a very, very strong crowd.
I think so, too. I feel like that's a testament to the marketing that has been put into this game in particular. Remember, this one is the $9.15 ticket night for those fans who want to see this UTEP men's basketball team. And if there are fans out there who want to still go to the game, there's still tickets out there. They are available, and I'm sure they're going to get a good walk-up crowd, too. Those people who might be on the fence tonight, I get it. It's a Monday. But if you have an opportunity to get out there and watch some UTEP basketball, I think you're going to get a chance to see two really interesting mid-major squads go at it tonight. The Gauchos went to the NCAA tournament last year. They are a program that has won 20 or more games under their head coach in 5 of 6 years since he's been there. So they are a successful program year in and year out. And I think it's important for UTEP to play these California teams because they want to get out there and recruit that area. So what better way to get out in front of them than to do it on national television at your own home court in front of a big crowd?
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. I'm interested to see what happens. I really am. And, once again, this is going to be a fun storyline for us here today. Really is. And I'm not – and I don't know for sure how things are going to unfold. But I will say that, I am excited about this and feel like we've got, as Chad just described, an old school Big Monday. Maybe that's the way it is. There used to be days when Monday night basketball, college hoops was the thing, Adrian. This was what it was like. I miss those days.
I like it. Good stuff there, Chad. And yeah, I mean, I think that's a really cool thing in itself, just the weeknight games, and especially when they mean something. This is an early season matchup between both these teams, and I think it means a lot for this UTEP basketball squad to kind of show them, all right, they've done it against an NAIA school, they've done it against a Division III school. Now their first Division I matchup tonight against UC Santa Barbara, a team that on paper is about as the same level as UTEP is to this point. So let's just see what both teams have at this point. It's early in the season. I'm not going to make overreactions either way, win or lose, and I think it's just going to be a great test for Joe Golding and his team here early into the season.
No, I can't wait. I cannot wait, and I think that it is definitely going to be something that a lot of us are looking forward to right now, a lot, and hopefully turns out to be, big night for Miner fans. Tell you what, the atmosphere, what are we thinking? Are we thinking 10 or just under 10?
Ooh, wait, like crowd tonight?
Yes.
Oh, man. I'll just say this. I think anything over 8 is a success. I'm just going to say that. And I think that because of the ticket prices right here, I think 9 or 10 is attainable, knowing it's $9.15. However, it is on a Monday. It is difficult, I get, for some families out there to make it out. I think it's just one of those nights for the basketball diehards to come out.
Yeah, I do too. All right. Adrian, I'm having difficulty on getting into Facebook on this new laptop of mine, so if we have any calls, please text them to me for the time being. Great. We'll get things started right now with Orly. He is first up today on the phone lines, 505-6009. Orly, welcome aboard. Happy Monday. How are you?
Doing good. Good weekend. Got to see the 49ers right the ship.
There you go.
What a difference the defense made yesterday.
Yep.
They looked like they were from the past. Their defense started playing. Purdy had a good game. Didn't have to force anything. It's kind of nice. Tonight's game should have a good crowd. We're finally playing a team with a recognitional name. We're not playing Eastern New Mexico, Western New Mexico. I don't even know what the other team was the other day. And McMurray State. These are actually a good team. I'm glad to see we're having a home game against a quality opponent.
There you go.
That's all season tickers want. Anyway, that's one. Hats off. Hate to say this as a Miner fan, but congratulations to the Aggies. They have proven that you can recruit to this area.
Right on.
You don't need, they get Kill. I'm not an Aggie fan by any sense, but it's hard. You've got to give them their due. He's proven that you can do a quick fix. Hint, hint. We want a quick fix at UTEP. Hats off to Boise State. They don't waste around. After 2 years, they got rid of their coach. We still got one for 7 years here. It's time to make the change. I think there's, 3 coaches got fired over the weekend?
Yeah,
Jimbo
including
Fisher,
Jimbo. The Jimbo Fisher one is wild, isn't it? That one's wild.
$76 million. Wow.
Oh, I know. Well, what is that? What is that to Texas A&M, though? I mean, honest to God,
That's what tells you what's wrong with athletics today.
Yeah.
You can pay a coach $76 million.
True.
That is so wrong. Anyway, but good weekend. I just guess I'm happy the 49ers turned the ship around. Hopefully, can't take anything lightly. They've got Tampa Bay this week. And then they've got 3 toughies in a row. You got Seattle, Philadelphia, and Seattle. That could make up the whole season for the 49ers. But, yeah, it was fun to see them get back to basics. What a difference with the addition on linebacker, on the outside edge rusher.
Yep.
It's fun. That's one organization that, you know what, they want to win it at all. It's 2 years in a row they've made a splash.
That's right.
But go to the game tonight, go Miners, and let's see what happens.
All right, Orly. Appreciate the call. Good start to the show. 17 past. We got a lot more to talk about. We'll get to it all here live, Border City Ale House with you till 6 o'clock, and then it's all off to Adrian on the other side of town at the District as we'll get you ready for UTEP and UCSB happening here on 600 ESPN El Paso. Let's go to Charlie 1. Get our first traffic update of the afternoon. Continue. Love to get your thoughts on everything sports-wise, following up on that call from Orly. 505-6009, that's our telephone number. 505-6009. We'll get you right on in and through to the show. And looking forward to that, as well as your calls, your comments, and everything else that we've got for you here on the program. By the way, let's be honest. I don't think UTEP is going to be sniffing 10,000. They might not even be sniffing 9 or 8. Adrian, I heard last week they had 7,000 sold. So let's just say with a good walk-up, even if they get 7,500, all right, and shy of 8,000, that's still going to sound like a really, really good crowd for a game like this.
Oh, yeah, big time. I mean, you're talking about also CBS Sports Network, which is, I guess, a little bit more accessible now that people have streaming television subscriptions. So if you've got a YouTube TV subscription, even like a basic Hulu TV subscription, or even a Spectrum live TV subscription for your streaming, you might get a chance to watch this one just based on what is included in your package to begin with. So the exposure is great. And like we've heard on the football side of things, it's not just locally, it's across the country. It's the fact that Miner fans, no matter where they are, if they're outside of El Paso, they can also watch along on a nationally televised broadcast like this one.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. And that's the most important thing. And I think most fans will say that for them, that's exactly what they want to see. So, tonight, I think that for basketball, now, I'll say this too, okay? Let's just assume that when UCSB takes the floor tonight, they do have their best player, A.J. Mitchell, in the lineup. If UTEP is able to play well and win the game with A.J. Mitchell, that's huge. If they lose tonight and Mitchell plays, once again, they'll be losing to a tournament team from a year ago whose best player is back. But I think the more important storyline with that, Adrian, would be that UTEP fans are on board. They're excited about the two games when they ran up the lesser opponents. But if they come pack it tonight and the Miners don't win, then immediately UTEP fans are going to think, well, what we just saw last week is fool's gold. We realize that this team is still not anywhere close to where we want them to be.
Yeah, I feel like that would be an overreaction for sure, knowing this is really game one, in my opinion. I think this is game one right here. This is the first game of the season that you got to really keep your eyes on for if you're a UTEP fan. Next week, just a reminder, a big week for UTEP basketball, knowing that they've got Cal on their docket. That's a Power 5 school. So if you think about even these next 5 games, you stretch this out into the end of November, and you realize UTEP's on the road against Loyola Marymount, one of the top 100 teams in college basketball right now. Yeah, it's a tougher stretch for them right now. So if I look at it, kind of zoom out a little bit, and I see it's UCSB tonight, it's Austin P on Friday, then Cal, then Loyola Marymount, and closing out the month against Texas A&M Corpus Christi. At least out of those games right there that are guaranteed matchup, not counting the Tulane-Bradley matchup, I feel like UTEP needs to win at least 3 or more of those to give fans a little bit of excitement, a little encouragement going into a December month, which they have Oregon on the road, Abilene Christian on the road, and those two teams are quality opponents when we talk about the start of December.
So I don't disagree, but I guess my point is that every time Miner fans get amped up for a big home game in sports, in football or basketball, if they don't win, it almost like it lets the air out of the balloon. So what I'm saying, I think my bigger point here is that this game does mean a lot, because you could score 123 points all you want against the Science and Arts of Oklahomas and schools like that, but when you do have the big home games on your schedule, the few that you do, and the fans do show up, they want to see UTEP play to their capabilities and not see all of a sudden a better team really, show them that they have potential, but they're not there yet. I mean, look, we all want the turnaround. We all want to see something exciting. We get that. But what I'm telling you is this. If Mitchell plays and UTEP ends up winning that game with him in the lineup, with a packed house of 7,000, 8,000 fans, whatever they have tonight, that could go a long way into re-energizing this basketball fan base for the 2023-2024 season.
You know, it's an interesting point, too, because you reflect on the football season. They beat Incarnate Word, and they get everybody, I guess, a little bit more excited after that victory. But knowing that it was an FCS opponent, everybody wanted to see how they would be at home against a team that, on paper, at that point, September 23rd, was at least comparable to UTEP, and that was UNLV. And look at what happened. UTEP let fans down in mid to late September, and that pretty much dominoed effect the fan base for the remainder of the season. That matchup in particular, they sniffed 30K, and then every other game, no one else showed up for football. And granted, that was a team that had much worse losses than just UNLV and La Tech at home, but still, it's kind of that fool's gold early on against an inferior opponent, and then losing the juice of your fan base if you lose that next game. So yeah, just to get fans excited about this season, I think it's really important here tonight.
They also have a 6'4" junior guard in Cole Anderson who scored 21 points in the loss to Portland State last week. And they've got another guard, Josh Pierre-Louis, who is a 6'4" senior who scored 16 in that game. So I guess the point is that A.J. Mitchell is the best player on the team, one of the best in the conference, but this seems to be a guard-heavy offense that has the ability to score.
Yes, they're going to shoot the outside shot in a big way. That's one of the things that has been the staple for this UC Santa Barbara program over the past couple seasons. They love to shoot the three ball well, and that's going to be a key for the Miners, how they defend the perimeter, knowing that, hey, they weren't the greatest against those inferior opponents last week from outside shooting. And then on top of that, this is a team in the Gauchos that turned the ball over 18 times against Portland State. I expect a feisty, also aggressive defense like UTEP to try to create a lot of turnovers tonight and keep their defense really engaged throughout this one. So those are two stats, or I guess two columns to look at here tonight.
We'll talk more about it in a moment. Our phone number, 505-6009. We're with you for the next couple hours till 6:30, but before we wrap things up at 6:30, we've got Adrian standing by live for us at 6. In fact, he'll have information on that right now, so stay tuned. That's all coming up inside Sports Center as we continue 600 ESPN El Paso. 33 now past the hour as we continue. You can also connect with us on X, formerly known as Twitter, as Sports Talk rolls along. And I'm looking at some of the conversations that we've been receiving. And Adrian, once again, after the press conference today with Dana Dimmel that you attended a little while ago, which significant news was the Gavin Hardison recent surgery, which will force him to miss the last 2 games of his senior season and finish off his UTEP days. Again, a lot of the reaction from the fan base is not even listening to what their head coach is saying, but instead wanting to see Dana Dimmel step down as head coach. And that is something that I don't think is really a surprise. We've heard that from fans for much of the season, and now it's almost like these press conferences are more white noise than anything else.
Right, and I think the first thing that fans will always point to the media is say, well, you never ask the hard questions. You never give them the hard ones out there. Well, today, Rachel Phillips, giving her credit from KVIA, she asked just a simple question about what he kind of thinks end of the season, and if he kind of feels the pressure from whether it's the fan base or the athletic department on not moving forward as the head coach, and he just quickly, deflected that. He said that he appreciated the question, he didn't want to answer it. So these questions are being asked. It kind of feels like the writing is on the wall right now, Steve. I will just reflect to what happened this past weekend in the Group of Five, because it's not fair to compare UTEP football to Power 5 coaches that are fired right now. But it is fair to compare UTEP to what other Group of Five coaches are, or what's happening in the other Group of Fives, like Boise State, which fired Andy Avalos. That one really shouldn't be a surprise. But you look at San Diego State. Brady Hoke announced his retirement. They are 3-7 through 10 games. They're going to finish with a losing record. Hoke went 13-12 with the Aztecs back in 2009, and then this time around just hadn't had the much success. They did have a great season 2 seasons ago, but nonetheless, Brady Hoke retiring after this season. So you kind of see at least a little bit of news coming out of the Mountain West ranks from coaching changes. Yeah, you do. By the way, when I saw the Hoke story, I was, he's 65 years old. So it's not exactly like Brady Hoke is in his, 40s. He's been around a long time. He was the head coach at Michigan from 2011 to 2014. So, there's a guy that's been doing this a long time and has decided that, it's time to call it a career. I am interested to see, what else will happen and the ripple effect. But, I mean, we've all been saying that I believe that from a UTEP standpoint, and I've been saying this for a while, if they felt there was somebody on the staff that, if given a chance to take over as head coach, could finish the season on a positive note and be a leading candidate to inherit the program, they would have done that already. But I don't feel like there's anybody on that staff that could be in that spot. Hence, Adrian, why UTEP will allow Dana to finish out the season and then look to bring in somebody after that. The downside to that is that as more schools start to make coaching decisions, there's other programs out there that are going to be looking for head coaches. And the longer they wait, the more schools will be in the same position. So you don't want to wait too long to where you put yourself in a spot to where some of the best names out there that you could be targeting are already off the board. But on the flip side, Adrian, we all know that UTEP does not even have a chance to pay the kind of money that San Diego State will spend on their next head football coach. Yeah, great point. And I'll read you some of the candidates who are among the San Diego State, vacancies, or who could fill that vacancy when it's all said and done. Washington offensive coordinator Ryan Grubb. I mean, come on, that's a guy who's currently coaching one of the best offenses, if not the best offense in all of college football right now. USC analyst Cliff Kingsbury, who's also rumored to be in the Texas A&M discussion. Oregon State offensive coordinator Brian Lindergren. And then how about this one? This is an interesting local tie right here. Nebraska defensive coordinator Tony White. He's also mentioned in that job opening for San Diego State. So there you go. There's a little bit of a local El Paso connection in Tony White. Well, I think Tony White was also a former assistant at San Diego State, if I'm not mistaken. So I think that White was there already previously and had a pretty good resume prior to. He was there from 2009 to 2017, so he knows that place very well. He knows El Paso very well as a Burgess High School graduate, so there you go. But somebody who's spent a lot of time in the Mountain West specifically, was at New Mexico, was at San Diego State like we just mentioned, and then has spent time with Syracuse and Nebraska most recently. Tony's had a terrific career arc. He really has, and hopefully he gets a chance soon. Let's go to Fernie. He joins us 39 past the hour, 505-6009, our telephone number. Hey, Fernie, what's going on? How are you?
Hey, what's the buyout on Dimmel's contract?
So the buyout is, look, he's going to get paid all of this year. I think so. When I talk buyout for Dana, I don't even discuss 2023 because it's already a given that he'll get paid for this entire season. Okay, so he's under contract, and I wrote about this last week on the website. He's under contract through 2024. And because the team did not go to the postseason this year or last season, The buyout would be 65% of his base for next season, which is $850,000. So you're looking at a buyout of about $552K for next season. That's what they would owe him after this year's over.
Well, I mean, I wish he would do the honorable thing and retire. I mean, he's already in his 60s and, kind of go out with some dignity and, and allow us to keep that money, the 500-something thousand to look for a new coach. I mean, that would just be optimal, but, I mean, come on, you're not going to walk away from $500-something thousand, but I mean, I hope he did it right at San Diego State. He walked, unless it was the end of the contract, which I doubt. That I would hope that we would have that extra $590,000. But I mean, what's crazy is we're over here talking $590,000 or whatever you brought up, Steve. And I'm looking over at Texas A&M and whatever they're going to pay out, like 73 million or something like that. It's just,
72 million. That's correct. That is correct.
So unbelievable. And then they still have to sign a new coach to,
right,
$9-10 million a year for however many years. And we're over here, I get a lot of people that criticize, the program, UTEP football and, basketball, especially if you UTEP football. And there's no comparison. It's just, I'm trying to just relate this to people is we're not even close to being at a level like even like Colorado State or, UNLV or anything like that when it comes to money, or, Nevada, Reno or anything like that when it comes to money. We're down here where I mean, we're just scratching the bottom of the barrel here, trying to just, 850, 900,000, the next coach, maybe a mil, but oh my goodness, it's just whatever A&M did is just, this is unbelievable.
Well, I mean, look, you take the Hoke retirement. He had 3 years, $5 million left on his for his buyout at San Diego State, according to NBC7 San Diego. Now, Adrian, you just sent that to me. Thank you. Does that mean that Hoke will get that money, or does that mean that he's going to forfeit that and just take the retirement?
So this was written as soon as he announced the retirement. So they didn't update it with that as far as how much he will take. Just had a statement from him at San Diego State and did not indicate what his payout will be. They just clarified that that's his buyout, nearly $5 million.
Now, Fernie, it is possible that maybe Dimmel works out a deal with UTEP after the season, or if he steps away from the program, he gets his money, but maybe they pay it out over 5 years. He's making $100,000 a year rather than all at once, the $552,000. So maybe that's how they soften it up for them. So they only owe him, $110 per year for 5 years. That I think could be realistic, but. I mean, to say forfeit the money, look, if you were under contract and for whatever reason your employer decided you weren't getting the job done and they wanted to cut ties with you, you would probably be trying to hold them to that contract and say, well, you owe me this, so let's make sure I'm not going to just leave unless I get paid. So it's a valid point. If you've got a contract, you can't expect somebody to just give the school a break and say, hey, I'm going to let you out of the last $500,000 because you know what? I feel bad for you guys.
And that's why I don't blame the players for getting all their NIL deals and all that now, because it is a business, and coaches have no loyalty. And, a good, loyal coach would just say, hey, I'm walking away, I'm retiring, and this program, did as much as it could for me, but there's no loyalty. So this thing about, I would seriously doubt the coach from San Diego State really retired, and maybe they came up with an agreement or something for a little bit less, or they're able to say he retired. But no, I don't think he's going to walk away from that much money. I might as well just get fired, and enjoy the rest of your life. But hey, guys, go Miners tonight.
Appreciate it, Fernie. I don't think I've ever heard, Adrian, of a coach just deciding to give their employer a break and decide, you know what, I'm going to walk away and just bypass the last few years because you've been good to me, so I'm just going to let you off the hook.
Yeah, I mean, come on, this is a business. Just like on the flip side, the coaches have, they hold their own power. The athletic department holds their own power on their side, and it's a business decision. It's not about who's nice. It's not about what kind of relationship you have with the coach,
right.
What the coach owes. Even Rick Stockstill, he's been 18 years the head coach of Middle Tennessee, and that things are rocky over there at 3-7. I don't really take loyalty into account in all of college football or all of college athletics. Loyalty is gone. It's all about the business, unfortunately.
It is. It is. All right, 15 in front. We'll come back. We'll wrap up hour 1 of 2 today. We're live, Border City Ale House. What kind of prize is you going to win? We'll tell you about it as we continue 600 ESPN El Paso. 9 in front of 5 as we continue here on Sports Talk. Live, Border City Ale House. And getting ready for what's going to be a busy night with UTEP and UCSB. Richard brought up a good point. Didn't Tim Floyd step down with nothing in return? He did. He did. Tim Floyd retired. I'm sure he probably had something left on his contract. I forget what. But that is a really good point that Richard brings up. And he's right. I think Tim Floyd did retire when he had years left on his deal, Adrian.
It wasn't given over to Phil Johnson at the time?
No. Well, Phil took over as head coach, but I don't believe – Phil did take over for Tim, but it's very possible that Tim had years left on his contract when he stepped down.
Yeah, I was totally kidding, but you're exactly right. I think I don't know exactly what kind of contract he had, but I do remember when he stepped down. I remember it was very early into the season, just a handful of games into it. And it was also, if I'm not mistaken, I know this was the case because I was working on the Prospector that night. It was a Monday, and we had our deadlines on Monday because we went out to print on Tuesday. And so I remember being at deadline and hearing the news about all of this.
Yep, absolutely right. Esteban brings up an interesting point. The season will end on a negative note regardless, so why not give an assistant coach an opportunity?
That's a valid point, too. It's a great question. I think it's all about athletic department philosophy. So we know what would the decision be if Esteban ran an athletic department. I think maybe this athletic department says, well, if it's a season, let's let him coach at least throughout the season, and then we'll reassess after.
Yeah, I agree with that, too. Back to basketball. Adrian at Enemy Win, the number 3, has this. Is UTEP's schedule good enough to get an invite to the NIT if they win 20 games this year?
Well, remember the new changes to the NIT. Now the NIT will not necessarily automatically take you as a regular season champion. They will prefer all the Power Fives over, regular season champions for mid-major conferences. So I think the NIT this year specifically will be filled with a lot of the powers, not necessarily the mid-major guys like we're used to seeing.
I agree with that. And I also think, though, that as far as NIT goes, hey, if UTEP wins all their big games and of the 20 games, they beat their best opponents, home on the road neutral site, that goes a lot farther into determining if they're going to be in the NIT.
Right, or any postseason, for that matter. And I think that there is value in the CBI, so I would throw that one out there. Remember, Conference USA team, if I'm not mistaken, it was Charlotte, ended up winning the CBI last year, so that's a pretty good one as well.
All right, we're live, Border City Ale House, 1506 Lee Trevino, getting you ready for Monday Night Football out here with Buffalo and Denver, and, of course, UTEP and UC Santa Barbara as well. All right, come back with more in a moment. Stay with us, 600 ESPN El Paso.
Here's Steve Kaplowitz and Adrian Broadus.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Hour number 2 live here today, Border City Ale House, 1506 Lee Trevino, along with Adrian Broadus back at our 600 ESPN El Paso River Oaks Property Schoolyard Sports Studios. I'm out here live at the Ale House getting you ready for Broncos and Bills, Monday Night Football. Let's talk about some of the prizes you have a chance to win here today. We've got, thanks to our friends at All That Music and Video, Collectors Marketplace, located at the Fountains of Farah, just below the Best Buy parking lot. We've got lanyards from both teams. We also have keychain bottle openers from both teams, and we've got DVDs from both teams as well. Now, as we all know, Black Friday right around the corner, and for All That Music and Video, It's like the second big record store day of the year. A bunch of limited releases. And as we know, you got to get there early before those great releases sell out. But if you're looking for the perfect holiday gift and you want to get a jump on the shopping, whether it's vinyl, CDs, DVDs, action figures, posters, so many other gift items, including for the sports fan, All That Music and Video has it for you. So check them out, folks. Also, thanks to our friends at Oscar Arieta and the Oscar Arieta Agency, we've got some really cool orange UTEP sunglasses that we're going to be giving away. We've got golf at Horizon Golf. That's good for a card and 2 green fees, $80 value. From our friends at 915 Sports and Novelties, inside Bassett Place, I've got some Dallas Cowboy goodies, including a very cool Cowboys shimmer decal. And also, from our friends at the El Paso Rhinos, going to be giving away 2 family 4-packs this weekend with the Austin Ice Bats in town. You want to see the Rhinos, come down here, register to win, and we will get you all taken care of. That's for us out here today at the Ale House, halftime of the Buffalo-Denver game. Adrian, you've got the big watch party coming up here in about an hour out at on the west side of town, the District Bar and Grill, 3233 North Mesa. We're getting all the Miner fans ready for the big game against UC Santa Barbara.
That's exactly right. It's a perfect spot, and actually you can plan to eat with us and then, of course, take advantage of the drink specials and then head over to the game. I would say it's walking distance. You probably want to repark your car just for, just for comfort's sake, but if you are planning to park your car and then join us, it's not far at all. 3233 North Mesa out at the District West, and I'd also say you can capitalize on those $8 nachos that they have. I've had the beef ones. They also have steak nachos and chicken nachos, so if you get out there early enough, you get a chance to capitalize on all of that. Actually, the nacho specials going on throughout the night, so that'll be great.
Let's talk about what the Cowboys did yesterday. They destroyed the Giants and just annihilated them and almost set an NFL record with a total offense that was, about 640 yards. It's just remarkable when you look at what the Cowboys did yesterday. 640 to 172. That's how bad they dominated the Giants. 472 yards in the air, and on that, they had another 168 on the ground. Adrian, I said this earlier this morning when I jumped on with Buzz on the queue. This team teases their fans because at times Dallas looks like a Super Bowl team. And just when you're ready to buy in, that's when the letdown starts. So the Cowboys have had a couple of those games where they've just looked incredible. They did against the Rams, the Giants, the Jets, and then they'll throw the clunkers out against teams like the Cardinals or the 49ers, which makes you wonder once again which Dallas team will show up come postseason.
I think we kind of know what team this Dallas team is, and they're the good, bad team. They're the best team of the worst, and they always can beat up on all the bad teams and all the teams who are either on their level or who are a little bit less than them. What's their quality win on their schedule right now if you're a Dallas fan? You're not looking at a moral victory loss to the Eagles on the road 28-23. I feel like that's the only game that you could get actually excited about. None of the wins, in my opinion, are quality wins. They're not beating anybody who's of value. The Rams aren't good. The Chargers are not good. So
No.
who are you beating right now?
Their best wins so far this season, if you really look at it, there isn't one. I mean, really, the best win is probably the Chargers. If you think about them, that's probably, and that was a 20-17 win. And the Chargers right now are 4-5. That's your best win. That is your best win.
Against a team with a losing record. And that's the reality that the Cowboys are going to have to sit with for a while, knowing that they have the Commanders and Seahawks on the horizon before they get a chance to play the Eagles again. And if they don't beat the Eagles, maybe they beat a quality team in the Bills. But now I'm starting to have question marks on Buffalo. Are they for real? And the same with the Dolphins the week after that. I mean, I don't know what kind of team that is. I wouldn't put those two teams, the Bills and Dolphins, on the same level as the 49ers and Eagles for sure.
Well, Look, the Panthers should be a win. Should be. Even though it's a road game. They've struggled on the road. But then Commanders, Seahawks, Eagles, Bills, Dolphins, Lions, Commanders. It's a better stretch to end the season in terms of just quality versus the beginning of the season. But you're right. They might not get another real test again until the playoffs. That's very, very true.
Right, and even the road tests that they have on the road against the Bills, on the road against the Dolphins, that's really it as far as road tests goes. I don't know how many home games the Cowboys will get a chance to host in the postseason, knowing where they're going to be when it's all said and done, or at least where they're projected to be. I don't anticipate them surpassing the Eagles for that number 1 seed whatsoever, so they're likely not going to have a bye. They're likely going to have to play that first week of postseason football, likely going to be at home, but after that, I don't know if they're going to get a chance to play another game at AT&T Stadium.
No, they might not. 9 past the hour. We got a line ready to go at 505-6009. That's our telephone number. But look, you look at the games yesterday, okay? Lions beat the Chargers 41-38, so they're now 7-2. Chargers are 4-5, as we mentioned. Browns had a huge win over the Ravens. I thought the Ravens were one of the best teams in the league until I saw what Cleveland did to them yesterday, and in the second half, outscored them 24-14 in Baltimore. That was a surprise. I did not expect Trevor Lawrence to be as bad as he was yesterday in the 49ers 34-3 rout. And also, speaking of bad, how about the Bengals, as good as they've looked in recent weeks, losing to the Texans 30-27? C.J. Stroud, Adrian, could be putting him not only into Rookie of the Year conversation, he might be putting him into MVP conversation the way he's playing.
Yeah, I would look at it. This is how I look at yesterday. The worst loss by far by any given team is the Ravens. There's no excuse how they played in the second half. No excuse for Lamar Jackson to throw those 2 picks. And very disappointed after having such a great first half in that Ravens team. I'm also very excited. Best win, the Houston Texans. They're suddenly 5-4 right now. They look in their division. The Jaguars are not far ahead of them. They're 6-3. Jacksonville is. And I feel like Houston could get some of these divisional games under their belt, and they could find themselves into the playoffs in year 1 under C.J. Stroud. That's always the big question if you're a franchise searching for a quarterback. Do we have the guy? I still feel like there are quarterbacks, whether it's first year, second year, who are in this league right now, and the franchise is still wondering, do we have the guy? Even Brock Purdy, for all the great things that he does with San Francisco, they're probably still wondering, do we have the right guy? In Houston, there is no question about it. They have the guy, and he is C.J. Stroud. And, man, he is doing so much with not a lot on his squad.
I believe you. Let's keep things moving. Augustine is joining us next. 505-6009, our telephone number. Augustine, what's going on, man? How are you?
Hey, Steve. Hey, Adrian. Good evening, everybody. And the worst loss was the Patriots loss. That was absolutely shambolic from the Patriots. I can't believe I woke up that early to watch a game, but the quarterback's gone. Mac Jones is gone. You guys were talking about quarterback, so who would be a good fit for the Patriots at quarterback besides anybody?
Yeah, I mean, that's the hardest part, is who could play quarterback for the Patriots. Well, the way this season is going, they might actually have their pick of the best quarterback prospects in the draft. Let's be honest, New England could be in the running for the number 1 overall pick when the season's over, the way they're going.
That will be, I think, the first time the Patriots have picked 5th or earlier since 1994.
Yeah.
Wow, for Cowboy fans, that probably rings a bell. But still, I mean, what's the real reason behind the Patriots? Is it just all on Belichick and his way of not wanting to change with the times and not wanting a better offense? You know, not getting good enough for wide receivers, or has the game really? And I'll pose this question: has the game really gone by Bill Belichick, and is it time for him to move on and just retire?
Well, let's put it this way, okay? When Bill Belichick and Tom Brady separated, the idea was going to be, let's see who is really more responsible for the success of that franchise. Brady goes out and wins the Super Bowl his first year in Tampa. Since he left, look at what's happened with Belichick and the Patriots. So it's pretty obvious to me, if you had to look at the two, maybe Brady had a much bigger value on the success of that franchise than their head coach. Or you could say that there's been such a drop-off between Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi and whoever else has tried to lead that team post-Brady. They've never really had a capable and competent quarterback in position. I mean, this year they might have their choice of Caleb Williams, Drake May, Bo Nix. I mean, that's a really good 1, 2, 3 to try to decide where they decide, where they go, and that would be interesting to see if they go new head coach, who would inherit one of those new franchise quarterbacks.
Yeah, that's gonna be really interesting, and for basketball, for UTEP basketball, and I was listening to you guys in the office a little bit earlier, and I just think you're completely right. This is really, like Adrian said, the first game of the season, because you can score 150 points on Del Valle and El Paso High, but here comes a real team with some real talent on them, and this really is going to be a game changer for the program to see if there is some kind of progress with UTEP basketball, which I think there is. I really think there is a lot of progress with UTEP basketball. I believe in this coaching staff, and that's UTEP basketball. And by the way, Cowboy fan, it's fool's gold. Don't get your hopes up, please. Stop it.
Throwing the old ender to that phone call right now. Fool's gold, Adrian. That is the message from one Augustine as we wind up our first segment here of our 5 o'clock hour.
Yeah, I wouldn't get excited whatsoever about a win against the Giants. They're playing with Danny DeVito out there at quarterback, or they probably would get more from Danny DeVito, to be honest with you, Steve, than they get from Tommy DeVito, who still lives with his parents. Did not like that story whatsoever. Didn't think that sat well with me. I'll say this about Bill Belichick, Steve. I think he is chasing the all-time record for a head coach for winning games, and that is owned, I think, by Shula. And if he gets to that point, he probably does it with a different organization. So I'm going to float it out today, November 13th. Maybe he gets traded, a rare trade for a head coach going somewhere else.
First off, I don't know how much you've studied this. Bill Belichick is 71 years old. I mean, I don't really know how many 70-plus-year-old head coaches are suddenly going to be in demand when they're coming off of a few down seasons to try to land a new job.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, think about it. He's up there in age, so he's not going to take a work in progress, but could he take over maybe something that's been established? Hint at the Cowboys, maybe the Chargers. Those two organizations that kind of are in this weird holding pattern right now need to get over the top, or kind of need to realize where their ceiling is. Maybe he could take over one of those programs right there.
Could you really see Bill Belichick working with Jerry Jones?
That's the only one I could actually see Jerry Jones trusting, right?
How desperate is Bill Belichick?
How desperate is Jerry Jones for a title?
Yeah, that's true. That is true. All right, 16 past the hour as we continue more in a moment. First out to Charlie 1 with this traffic update. Past the hour right now, coming your way live. It's Border City Ale House, 1506 Lee Trevino. Getting you ready for what's going to be a busy night of UTEP basketball. Miners and UC Santa Barbara. John Teicher will be dropping in a little more than an hour from now on the countdown to tip-off. Adrian will take over the show at 6 when he is out at the district for his very special UTEP tailgate party before the game tips off, so you can check Adrian out there. I'll be sticking around out here on the east side of town. So we've got the east-west connection tonight here in El Paso. I'm east, Adrian's west. We've got you covered no matter where you are in town. If you're at the game, that's going to be awesome. The atmosphere should be electric. If you can't make it, don't worry. We've got you covered here on 600 ESPN El Paso and also out here at the Ale House. We'll be sticking around with you to watch the Denver-Buffalo Monday Night Football game and getting ready for that one. Let's go to the phones right now as we continue. Hector is joining us next, 505-6009. Hector, thanks for the call. How are you?
I'm okay. How are you guys doing?
Doing all right. Thanks, Hector. Appreciate it.
Yes, I guess I must be one of those fools that still believes. Long-time listener, long-time Cowboy fan. You know, it's just amazing how people, when the Cowboys win, they always downgrade them all the time.
Yep.
And it's amazing how terrible teams are once the Cowboys beat them. Because as far as I know and as far as I've seen, is that Philadelphia hasn't really beat anybody either. Almost lost twice to Washington. They got by the Cowboys. And I really think that by the time Philadelphia plays the Cowboys again, they'll be fighting for the NFC East title.
Well, look, the way the schedules work out, that could easily be the case. Now, I'm looking at the Eagles so far versus the Cowboys because you bring up a great point. Eagles are 8-1, but you look at their wins, their best victory so far this season is probably going to be Miami. Now, Miami this year is 6-3. That's probably their best win of the group because like the Cowboys, they also haven't played a ton of teams. I think you're right there.
I actually think the best win that Philadelphia had was against the Cowboys. You know, I think if it wasn't for the Cowboys' mistakes, I really don't think. I think the Cowboys beat themselves. Honestly, I think they should have got that shit. They should have won that game.
You know, the only downside to me, well, I guess we'll find out, right? Because the Cowboys have to play in Miami on Christmas Eve. That's when we'll get a pretty good. The Cowboys will play Miami on Christmas Eve, and that's when we'll get a pretty good indication of what kind of team Miami is.
Yeah, you know, another thing too. You know, we worry about San Francisco, Philadelphia and Dallas, and then here comes Detroit, end up winning everything because of their schedule and their weak division as well. I mean, for me, it's really still up for grabs. I know Philly has only lost one game, but their tough schedule is coming up, so we'll see how they do. And I'm thinking hopefully they lose 2 out of the next 4 games.
The whole division to me. Listen, the one thing about the NFL, right? Just when I thought that San Francisco could be special, they lose 3 in a row, and then they rebounded against Jacksonville this past week. But I mean, I thought the Ravens were legit, and then the Browns beat them
yesterday.
Yeah. I know it.
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying. It's like there's a ton of parity in the NFL this year. There really is.
And if Philadelphia loses to the Jets,
I know.
with the backup quarterback.
That's my point. My point is, if you really look at everybody in the NFL right now, Hector, is there one dominant team that you feel good that every single week is going to go out and win a game and win in the postseason?
Nope, not at all. Maybe Kansas City. Because they have the record of doing so.
Well, they do, but remember, they lost to the Lions and they lost to the Broncos this year, and I think Denver is terrible. So
you just never know. That's why they play the game, right?
Yep, 100%. Appreciate the call. Thanks, Hector. I mean, Adrian, I guess if you want parity in the NFL, that's exactly what you have right now. I'm not saying we don't have good teams. We do. We just don't have any locks anymore. I don't feel like there's any locks in the NFL right now.
I don't know. I think we have some really bad teams, Steve. I'd take the opposites. I think we have probably more. I can name 10 teams who I just think are flat out bad right now. And then to find the really good teams, that's hard. I think you could talk yourself in to a lot of these good teams, but to make the playoffs or at least to outline the playoff picture right now for both conferences, it's harder than ever. At least it's harder than I remember for a while. And I think it is top heavy. You still have your Kansas Cities, you still have your San Franciscos, but quality wins. I guess he brings up a good point. It is hard to find quality wins on any schedule, regardless of the team. Yep,
he does. 25 past the hour as we roll along here on the show. 505-6009, our telephone number. I still like Kansas City despite their loss to Denver. I still like Baltimore despite their loss to the Browns. But you could make an argument right now that the AFC North is the best division in football. You could absolutely make that argument, and probably nobody's going to disagree. Everybody's over 500. The Ravens are leading the way, but the Steelers are a half game back. The Browns are a half game back. The Bengals are a game and a half back. So, I mean, you got everybody 500 or better. No division in football has that right now. So I guess if you really want to look, but here's the crazy thing. I don't feel great about any of those 4 teams. So even if you want to call the AFC North the best division in football, if you ask me, do I believe the Ravens, Steelers, Browns, or Bengals are going to go to the Super Bowl? I probably would say no right now.
I would echo those same sentiments. Maybe the AFC Championship game, but not necessarily. And I think it's also a gauntlet of a division. I mean, look at how they're kind of beating up on each other. Knowing what the Browns did to the Ravens just yesterday. By the way, Baltimore has Cincinnati on Thursday, and that feels like a must-win for both of those teams. It's crazy to talk about a must-win game here just past the midway point of the season, but it kind of is. And then, I would put the second-best division right underneath that. And actually, it's not right underneath. There's a little bit of a gap. And then it's probably becoming the AFC West, knowing what the Chargers are still showing. I mean, they're not an easy out. The Raiders have suddenly looked good and showed some life under their new interim coach in Pierce, even though they're beating up on lower quality opponents. No offense to your Jets, Steve. And then the Broncos have won back-to-back. If they win tonight, they're suddenly back in the playoff picture. So that would be kind of, there's a gap between the AFC North and the West, but it's starting to get a little thinner as far as that gap.
And by the way, I agree with you, especially about I watched that game last night. That was a terrible football game, which the truth is those are two pretty evenly matched teams. Let's be honest. I mean, those probably are two pretty evenly matched teams when you start to look at what the Raiders are like right now and what the Jets are like. And the Jets have basically played themselves out of the postseason, which also really interests me because Jets, in fact, are not going to make the playoffs. Should Aaron Rodgers just shut down the rehab and recovery and just not try to make a Superman-like return to a team that's going nowhere?
Yeah, I felt like that story yesterday was almost ridiculous. And I don't know what to make of it, Steve. I want to think, is his Achilles not completely torn? Did he sprain it severely, and that's why he's back so quickly? Like, it seems like superhuman stuff that we're hearing from Aaron Rodgers, and if they're not in contention, in my opinion, there's no way he plays, or he should play the remainder of the season.
There is no point to play. What would be the reason to play? There is none. I mean,
I would want a better draft pick if that was the case. And also, remember, it's all conditional draft picks that are going to the Green Bay Packers, so the fact that he doesn't play is actually better for their draft. I believe they owe Green Bay a second instead of a first.
That's true. That is true. All right. Approaching the bottom of the hour here on Sports Talk. We have about 30 minutes left to go. We'd love to get your thoughts and comments at 505-6009. I just saw a post come in from Joe Chacon. The ban expired yesterday, correct? Has he now been reinstated?
He has been reinstated. That is correct, Steve. That's right.
Okay. Then I'll read that. I'll read that here coming up in a minute. But before we do, let's go right back to Adrian and get this Sports Center update. Very much. Bottom of the hour. As we now continue, 31 past here. Joe Chacon had this for us at Eldon60 on X, formerly known as Twitter. I'm tired of hearing people make correlations between teams. UTEP did not play Del Valle or El Paso High. They played two schools who recruited grown men to play. I'm sure that if the School of Science played ... Listen, Joe, I don't disagree that a college team is a college team. But the point is, you can't take a 50-point blowout against a D3 school and have any accurate idea what that means in the long run for the UTEP men's basketball program. In comparison, if tonight we see, A.J. Mitchell play for UC Santa Barbara against the Miners, then all of a sudden that changes everything, and then we know what will happen if the UTEP is able to win against arguably one of the best players in the Big West Conference. So I think the point we're trying to say is that, hey, it's still impressive. You set a school record. Traditionally, UTEP plays down to their opponents, and they don't blow schools out like that. We agree with all that. We know. But you can't determine how good a team is going to be when they beat up on a D3 school. I think that is the point we have, Adrian.
Take it for what it was, and for what I saw it's an opportunity for the newcomers to show out in their new uniform and get fans excited, give the team a little bit of confidence for what it is going into a real week of basketball, and that is against a Division I opponent tonight, UC Santa Barbara. No knock to all the players who are on those opposing teams. It just isn't the same level, of course, as when you're taking on a Division I opponent. And we debated last week what the style, what you prefer as far as the schedule. If you had an opportunity to do it, do you go on the road? Do you take on a big opponent? Or like the Miners did, do you play some early home games at first to try to get your season going and then ease into the schedule with more Power 5 opponents? And people feel different ways about it. So you just kind of see where Joe Chacon lands on this. He was excited that the Miners got a chance to show out in front of their home crowd last week, and he likes what he saw from last week. Now, how last week will transition into this week, I think that's a big thing to watch out for tonight, how they're going to use some of that momentum last week and transition it into a game against UC Santa Barbara, in my opinion, the first real game.
No, I agree with you, and I think we all recognize that. And there's, again, this is the first real game, and it's not that we're not trying to hype them up. We are, but I'll be much more excited if they win today against UCSB, especially if Mitchell plays. That would really tell us something as far as this team goes in a big, big way. But let's see if that happens. I will say my favorite takeaway so far this season is not Zid Powell. It is not Corey Camper Jr. or Terrell or Trey Horton. But I am most excited about Elijah Jones for a lot of reasons. He's missed one shot from the field in 2 games. Now, again, given the opposition, I understand that. He also is probably the oldest-looking redshirt freshman forward I've ever seen in all my years at UTEP. Like, he looks like someone who easily could be a junior or a senior, and he's built like someone for that. But he is a redshirt freshman. Adrian, a 6'8", 205-pounder who clearly right now looks like he is off to the kind of start where he'll have Miner fans dreaming about what he could do in big games against big opponents.
Just think about last year's team and what UTEP did not have. They didn't have depth in their front court, and I think that hurt them moving forward because they relied so heavily on Zarek Onyema and Calvin Solomon last season that whenever they had to turn to their bench, whether it was Kevin Kalu, Jamari Sibley, they just didn't get as much production from those guys as possible, or as they'd liked last year. Jonathan Dos Anjos, it's unfair to talk about his season last year knowing that he dealt with a lot of injuries, and then Derek Hamilton was just pretty much going through his own freshman season despite being a junior college transfer. Now I feel like they've got quality depth in their front court, like guys that they can throw on any given night, guys that they could even start if they absolutely had to, and I think it's headlined by Elijah Jones. Jonathan Dos Anjos is definitely in that conversation as well as far as contributors to the front court, but having that presence down low is really important for this team, knowing that they lost Onyema and knowing that they need that kind of help this year with Solomon not having to carry so much on his plate.
I agree with that too. And, I feel like Kalu can still give them some good physical strength in the low post. But, Solomon is going to be, this is last year. You need a future. And at least right now, the future looks pretty bright in that regard. So, yeah, I'm excited when you've got a redshirt freshman like what we've had a chance to see from Elijah Jones and what perhaps he can do here in the years to come. So that's some pretty good news right now. It really is. And, that's also one of the reasons why, we'll say it and we'll say it again, NIL is important, Adrian, not just to bring players in, but as we've seen now, especially with basketball, to try to retain guys from year to year.
It's very important. It's vital. It's almost like the lifeblood. Essentially, it's an extension of your lifeblood of your program. And some fans might roll their eyes on it and shrug off the importance, but it really is important because when recruiting trips are happening, when official visits are happening, sometimes the people who are traveling with the prospect, they ask the first thing that they ask is, what kind of NIL dollars are you going to bring to me, and how much are we going to benefit off that? And now UTEP can at least be a part of those conversations on the basketball side of things.
Let's take a phone call before we go to break. It's Brian from downtown. Will join us at 38 past the hour. How you doing, Brian?
I'm hanging in there. I'm minor. I bleed minor orange. You know that.
I do.
Hey, listen. I don't want to hear about these substitute position players on Yama 6'8", 6'5", 6'9", forward. Backcourt. It's all irrelevant. What we haven't had in recent years is a scorer. He could be 7'3". He could be 5'8". I don't care. He comes in with 3 minutes left in the game, and he can fill up the basket. That's what we've always needed. And it looks like this guy's a scorer.
Again, you can't argue with that, with what we've seen so far. I feel like, though, this team has a few scorers. It's not going to be just one or two guys. I feel like they've got a few. But most importantly, Brian, they've shown the ability to shoot the basketball. Last year, they couldn't throw it into the ocean.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about when it comes down to winning or losing the game with 2 or 3 points either way. We need a guy that's got a cup, that has a pair and that can go take a charge or go fill up the hoop, and that can grit his teeth and sneer at the other guy's best player and say, "All right, you guys, I got this." Well, we haven't had a player that could say to himself and to his teammates, "Don't worry about it. I got this." We haven't had it for years, and it looks like we finally have that guy.
Good point, and I agree with that. So it's nice. Let's see how he does with tonight and some of the other better competition. But hey, man, Elijah Jones, freshman of the week in Conference USA. That's good news, and hopefully that bleeds over into tonight's contest, which we'll see. So
well, it's only been 2 games, and I'm the eternal optimist. Well, you got to be if you're a Miner fan, long suffering, as we used to say. But it looks to me, I watched both of those games, and I'm very encouraged that Jones is that guy. He may not be that guy, but I've got a lot of hope that he is that guy.
Sounds like a winner to me. Appreciate it. Thanks for the call, Brian. We'll talk to you. All right, 20 in front of 6. As we continue, we'll come back. More out here live. Border City Ale House. Adrian heading over to the district at 6 o'clock. He'll take things over for a little UTEP Miner Talk pregame, which we'll have featuring an interview with Joe Golding. That's right, Adrian sat down with the UTEP coach. Looking forward to that conversation as well. It's all coming up right here, 600 ESPN El Paso.